Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1980s.
Ai-yah, you teach him to watch TV?
This is episode 250, recorded January 5th, 2024.
Gruesome Magazine.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Oh, our first podcast in 2024, and it's number 250.
Woo.
So, yeehaw. And for that special occasion, we are joined by Ralph Miller, special effects,
Yay!
who worked on the movie we're going to do today. So you'll find out what we did. But I am your host, Jeff Mohr, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1980 and 1989. Each episode, my co-hosts Bill Mulligan, Crystal Cleveland, and Chad Hunt, and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this radical, gory, influential, and gruesome decade. Joining me tonight is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl and co-host of the Gruesome Magazine podcast and owner, publisher, star of the Gothic Cottage YouTube channel.
Yeah. Wow, you added that? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just made it up. I that's the right name was.
Yeah. It's because my tag is always going to be that. I did change it to my name because it seems like people like it better. But you know, I tried to not have my name, not have my face, and then
What?
apparently,
if I had your face, that's all I'd ever show.
Yeah,
So-
your face is your fortune. Come on.
Yeah, come
I
on.
watched your Night Swim review and I went, whoa. Right away, I knew which Crystal I was getting.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm tired of my horror movies being safe. Yeah.
All right. Also with
Good I
us
am.
is Chad Hunt, comic book artist and co-host of Decades of Horror, the all of them. Chad, it's good to see you.
Thanks, Jeff.
How you sitting?
Oh.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Don't get them wet.
I don't.
Or feed them after midnight.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about
I'm
something
fine,
else. Yeah. Oh,
That sounds more like Elmo than a gremlin.
Yeah, well,
man.
Elmo's pretty scary too.
How could you afford Howie Mandel for this podcast?
Wow. Yeah.
And also with us is Ralph Miller. We appreciate it, Ralph. How you doing?
Yay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm doing great.
We are spanning the continent today from North Carolina to
From sea to
California.
shining sea.
All right. So we normally give a few. Oh, first off, yeah, we do.
Oh,
Bill Mulligan, last but not least.
Old
the first time
unforgettable
he's
man.
actually
Last
ready.
least.
The first
Bill.
time I'm ready with the book, and I don't get a shout out. Oh well. That's
I
all right.
love it. Yeah.
But he's an all-around nice guy, and he's still smiling because I was going to forget him. How you doing, Bill?
Yeah, I'm peachy. What a day. I swear
Yeah.
today is a gremlin day.
I would say the last 2 weeks are kind of your
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
gremlin weeks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got in my engine and everything.
Shit goes wrong.
Yep.
All right. Also, Decades of Horror partners with Play Now Media on several of their streaming channels. In particular, Decades of Horror, the 1980s is on the Wicked Horror TV channel. And all of our videos are now uploaded to the
Woohoo.
site. It will take them,
Yay.
I don't know when he uploads them puts them out as a batch. So sometime in the next couple weeks. And I believe our first one was episode 171, The Hitcher.
Wow.
So
Oh, cool.
everything from 171 on through, well, we're at 250.
Yeah.
Should be out there.
Jeez.
And they've got lots of good horror movies too. So check them out. In this podcast, we start with some basic details about the film we're covering, followed by each of our first impressions of the movie. And then we move on. We may switch things up a little bit this time because we've got Ralph with us and lots of behind the scenes special effects stuff. And I'm really interested to hear what Ralph did on this and what else he knows about the other people that worked on this. Our topic today is none other than Gremlins, 1984. It's only 11 days after Christmas, so I put up the Santa hat picture.
It's cute.
Directed by Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus. Cast includes, and oh my God, I could have had like 20 people listed as recognizable
Sure.
people. But Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Francis Lee McCain, Dick Miller, Polly Holliday, Glenn Turman, Corey Feldman, Key Luke, Scott Brady, and Jonathan Banks. Production company is Warner Brothers and Amblin Entertainment. And I believe this is the first Amblin movie.
That is correct.
Filming locations, Warner Brothers, Burbank Studios, Universal Studios backlot, and I'm sure a bunch of other places. I know they did some off-site locations for the school, I think. But anyway. Release date, June 8th, 1984. And I did hear, or I saw an interview where they said that this was like a 6-month shoot. First, there was like 7 months of pre-production. And then there was a 3 months principal photography. And then about a 3-week break. And then another 2 months of follow-up shots with Gremlins. Anything that was only Gremlins didn't get shot until after everybody went home. At least that's the way I heard it described. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
Budget is about $11 million. Domestic box office. IMDb and the Ultimate Movie Ranking say $153.6 million. Wikipedia says $212.9. I don't know why.
Either way, a hell of a return on the investment.
At $11 million, yes.
And that's just domestic box office. Holy moly.
Yes. Well, 153 is, I think the other one is too. And I assume that they've added in on Wikipedia, they may have added in re-releases. Or
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the synopsis of Gremlins. A young man inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malevolently mischievous monsters on a small town. And no, Chad, I didn't write that. But I
can
love
tell because that sounds halfway correct.
It's not coherent. I gotta love some alliteration. And there's the cute little fella.
Yeah.
At the keyboard, kind of. In his Santa hat. All righty. So let's go to first impressions. And I'm gonna. Should Ralph go first or last?
First.
Okay. Let's hear from Ralph first. As a movie, you can say it any way you want to. You know how you worked with it, what you thought of the finished thing. Did you? If you don't say what I want you to say, I'll ask you the question.
You can work me like a puppet and have me say whatever you want. Well, I would say that for one thing, this was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and that's probably true for many people on the crew. That it's maybe the best film that many of us have worked on, and the one that clearly was the most popular. So, I was not in at the very beginning like some people were, but when I got there at Chris Walas's studio and saw what was going on, it just completely blew my mind. I knew it was going to be interesting, but I had no idea it was going to be this amazing. And I'm sure that some people might have been a little bit jaded, but I think on the whole, everybody really came together because they knew it was going to be a struggle to pull off what we had to do. And it was quite an experience. And I was really very, very happy when I saw the finished result. Because every step in a filmmaking process can add to or detract from the finished product. And in this case, I think we had so many amazing talents involved, not counting me in that picture, that it's just one of those things. It's kismet. It's like it was destiny. It's like all these things happen that you really can't expect. And it just about killed Joe Dante, the director, and Chris Walas, the creature effects guy, because it was really a big ask what this movie was about. Mm-hmm. But everything that they did that was above and beyond was essential to making it the film that it is. So I think that's enough. Cool. I love it.
Well, that's good if you worked at it and you love it. Bill, how about you?
I saw I saw this opening night. There was no way I wasn't going to see this opening night. After the ads were great, all the stuff in Fangoria just was whetting my appetite. I was already a Dante fan. And the audience, this is one of those films that I just remember the audience was so hot. They were so into it. They wanted to be entertained, and they were. And they went along for the ride. I'm astonished, actually, reading up on things, that there's a certain amount of controversy about Gremlins, that they were saying, people were saying it was too violent, it was too dark. They didn't like the segment where Phoebe goes on about how her dad died. All I can say is the audience I was with on that opening night, we ate up every single bit of it with a spoon, would not have changed a single thing. When Gizmo shows up in his little Barbie car, people cheered. You know, that we were cheering for a freaking puppet. We were totally believed in that thing. People were genuinely scared that Gizmo was going to die, saving these people and everything. No, man, it was great. It was great. It and it still works today. I'd like to know what modern audiences, people who haven't seen it before. I should watch one of those first reaction videos that are all over YouTube, where people watch this and see if it still works the way it did. But I when I watched it again recently, I was right back there in that theater, and I had a great time. Wouldn't change a frame of it. It's got a unique look. It's got a great feel. It is an 80s movie in the best possible way of saying something's an 80s movie. I don't think you could make something like it today. It just wouldn't work right. But boy, hats off to everybody involved. Great job.
Yeah. Alrighty. Crystal Cleveland.
I look like a hot
What do you
mess.
think of this?
I haven't got much sleep in the past few days. I saw Gremlins as a kid. I don't remember what age I was. It was at home. I watched everything at home. Like, I didn't go to the movie theater. So, oh God, I'll never forget, like, the first time you see Gremlins. Like, I wanted one. They looked so real. I just remember thinking, oh, look, it's so cute and fuzzy and furry. And then, you know, obviously after they get them wet, then you've got multiple ones. And I thought it was cool how you could see the different personalities of them even before they become Gremlins. And then, of course, when they become Gremlins, I mean, I've always loved horror movies. So I think this is one of the greatest, most well done horror movies almost ever. I mean, as far as like, the story is very good. It's shot very well. The effects are freaking ridiculous. Like, come on. I believe, I mean, I've obviously I've watched it multiple times since, and I still think they're good. So this movie completely holds up. In my opinion, I think it more than holds up. I mean, it's definitely one of the greatest films to come out of the decade. In my opinion, I mean, highest quality, it's a Christmas film. And so it's on my top Christmas films to watch. So I do try to watch it pretty regularly. So, I mean, it's funny too. It's funny and dark and quirky. And, you know, it does have a little bit of fear to it. Gremlins is amazing. Like, if seriously, if someone is out there and you haven't seen Gremlins, then you're not a horror fan. Come on. You're not a horror fan. I don't believe that. Not at all. It is essential for sure.
Tis it tis. Thanks, Crystal. And Mr. Chad Hunt.
I hated this movie.
What? Oh, you said that.
Yeah. The comedy
Well,
styling.
like street trash. I don't know what I'm doing.
I was like, what? No.
No, I saw this movie opening night as well, and my experience was pretty much like Bill's. You had emotions running the gamut from being scared to death, from being grossed out, cheering, and a lot of movies. We have a lot of movies that call themselves horror comedy, but this is one of the first ones that I can think of that pulled that off successfully. It because the scares were scary and the laughs were legitimate laughs. The humor in it was great, but it also had an emotional
Yeah.
point to it as well, and which was just as just as legit as everything else in the movie. But it's one of those movies that you're sitting there watching it and you knew you were in for something special. The effects were out of this world. They're gross, slimy effects in some pieces that
Yeah, I was like,
satisfied all the horror people, and that to me that speech by Phoebe
Cates
was just it fit right in with the wacky
yeah.
weirdness of that movie. And I know a lot of people did not like that, but I ate it up. I loved it. And it's a special film because I think up to that point there was not another film like it.
Yeah.
And it really shows a lot of Joe Dante's love for the old Warner Brothers cartoons and that kind of wackiness. So I still love this movie. It holds up, big time watching it now. It's a special movie, and it's one of my favorites of all time. Yeah. So.
Nice. I also saw this in the theater. However, it has been a long time since I watched this all the way through. A long time. So it surprised me a little bit because it was stuff I didn't remember from almost 40 years ago for some reason. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's got everything, as you guys have been saying. And I think one of the things it has that we talk about a fair amount in Gruesome Magazine is it's got heart.
Yeah.
It's not just mean. It's got heart, and there's lots of, you run the gamut of the emotions. And I was thinking about this, that the human kills are sort of vague and non-descriptive. They're not gory or intent, like Mrs. Deagle flies out, lands out there. It's just
Good.
cooler than hell, but we don't see, like her head knocked off or any of that stuff. All the really nasty stuff happens to the nasty.
Yeah.
So that makes it fun because they're not even, they're real, but they're,
Yeah.
That's cool. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I'm really looking forward to this. Let's jump right in here to the posters and stuff. I think I got this set right here. So this is actually kind of a genius marketing thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Was Fangoria, did they have pictures of the Gremlins before the movie came out?
I don't think so.
I feel like they may have, but I don't know. Maybe, back then things were not as open as they are now, where we know every single thing about a movie before we go to it.
Oh yeah, the trailer was a teaser. It didn't show you anything. And just like this poster, it's just a teaser. And when it takes that turn to horror, that's what some people found shocking. If they were like parents of small children, they thought it was going to be like teddy bear movie all the way through, and it's not that.
But what is the rating? What is the rating here?
PG, but
no.
This.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's PG, but that's controversial. And this one and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom are the two movies that got people so upset that the ratings board decided they had to make an in-between rating, PG-13. So that's one of the one of the feathers in the cap of the Gremlins creators. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think that there is that in between rating.
There's something between, every kid can see this and every,
Because honestly, coming from a now perspective, it shocks me that it was PG. I'm like, wait, this was PG? I was like,
see, this one doesn't seem as I thought Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom definitely was pushing things, because you're seeing the hero's heart get ripped out and stuff. But what the heck? So they stuck a gremlin in a microwave. He's a gremlin.
Yeah, that's right. The kills on humans, or the violence on humans, is very understated compared to what happens to the gremlins. But it's nonetheless quite
Mhm.
nasty,
I-
disgusting what happens to the gremlins, but
Well,
they're gremlins.
I think it's genius marketing, and this was. I know most movies are like this, but apparently it was very tightly. Scripts were numbered and signed out, and
Oh, yeah.
you had to sign statements that you would, on penalty of death. If
Yeah. In fact,
or anything. And,
we who worked on the film were not permitted to take pictures. Like even in Chris Walas's shop, Chris Walas was in charge of the creature effects. Mark Walas, his brother who worked for him, was able to take pictures. He was the only one, so that there was real control over the images of these creatures, because the trailers, the posters did not tell you what you were going to see. So when you see it on the screen for the first time, it's really startling. And Chris was quite concerned that when people saw the little furry guys, the Mogwais, that they would be like, what? And walk out. He didn't know what the reaction would be. So he was so relieved when the response was so positive. Yeah. And in fact, they would check the cars of everybody who was involved in the film going out to make sure they didn't have a gremlin in their trunk.
wow.
Like stealing one? Cheese and rice.
Yeah.
well, you made like over 100, right?
Over 100, yeah. And yet I heard them bandy about saying they cost $35,000 to $40,000 a piece.
What?
Well, that might be like amortized across all of them, because some of them were simple butt
All the
puppets.
development.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
just like
yeah.
Muppets.
There was
And
helmet puppets too. Like
And helmet puppets. There you go. Just like half of a gremlin stuck on a bike helmet for the theater scene. So there was quite a range in terms of the
Sure.
sophistication of these puppets. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, you also supplied these. These are basically merchandising, and I heard Joe Dante say that the studio just was really not really sure about this whole concept, and I probably Spielberg pushing it is what kind of got it going and kept it moving, but they just didn't know what. And when they saw the first rushes and saw the first gremlin come out over the thing, they all of a sudden went, holy shit, this is a merchandising gold mine.
Right.
Money in the
Like
bank.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
until then they didn't really
Precious.
get it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we got a storybook, we got a book or a special official magazine. Is it?
Look, we even had Gremlins
Whoa.
lunchboxes.
heck yeah.
Aw, that's cool.
Let's see.
There they be.
That's so sweet.
Upside down. Sorry.
And then the Fangoria issue.
Mm.
Yay, Joe.
And I'm trying to see what the date is.
$2.95. That
Those were the
magazine only
days.
cost $2.95, and now they're like
It must have been-
$16 or something.
Yeah.
Look,
So
you got a Salem's Lot poster and everything.
Yeah.
I remember not knowing anything about what they looked like before I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And I used to scour Fangoria, Cinefantastic.
Yeah.
And
They really
everything.
kept a tight lid on it, except somehow a picture got out. It was kind of a fuzzy picture of the gremlin face, and it was in the Boston Globe newspaper.
Wow.
Whoa.
So people were pissed about that.
Mhm.
Oh, I'll bet. Wow.
See, what's interesting is normally a production keeps their creatures under wraps because, let's be frank, the creatures suck.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
they keep it under wraps because they, want to hope that they'll have this sort of like, oh, we want to see it. But these are so good. It would be interesting to see how the marketing would have played out if they had shown it, because honestly, they're freaking fan. If they had showed little Gizmo just like, so cute. So, and then like those eggs are all so juicy and
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's so much
Okay, we better
good
move
stuff.
along, Jeff.
Yeah,
We're
really.
talking-
Yeah. sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
Ralph gave me one of these, but then I kind of went into sort of the genesis of the Gremlins. And,
yes.
Oh.
So we got I think it was called Falling Hair.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so.
about the myth of the Gremlins sabotaging the World War II airplanes. Oh, it was. We've had
It's one of the best Bugs Bunny cartoons ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next shot is the gremlin from Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Twilight Zone episode.
Twilight Zone.
Starring William
Yeah.
Shatner.
Yes.
I thought it was
One
Bigfoot
with John
from the $6
Lithgow.
Million Man.
Yeah.
Written by Richard Matheson. And then the
You know-
bottom picture is from the Twilight Zone movie, the remake
Yes, right.
with John
Which
Lithgow.
is pretty good.
Oh, that's the one I know. Okay, yeah.
I just also want to point out, whenever anyone talks about, the famous Bigfoot movie that was taken in 1967 and whether or not it was makeup and everything, the one thing that always gives me pause is this is what costumed creatures look like back
This
then.
was the state of the art, Bill.
State of the art. And boy, there's no muscle definition there. That thing in the video, I don't know if it's real or not, but if it's not, they did a great job.
Well, it probably ate a lot of food getting ready to hibernate in the winter or something.
Yeah.
But it'd scare the hell out if you saw it out on an airplane.
Oh, well,
Yeah, that does not belong in the wing.
If there's a
That's not
pigeon
right.
standing on the wing, I get nervous. So
So and then, so just to keep going in that direction, Ralph.
Ah, yes.
Well, I think Bill had this too, but
Oh.
the top one are early models, right?
Yeah, early prototypes. Yeah. And in fact,
And
you
there's
can see that the
Gizmo.
gremlin, the monster gremlin there is not very big. And when the first prototype for a gremlin puppet was made, it was so small that there was only one person on our crew who was capable of fitting her hand inside of it to work the mouth. So things had to be changed. It had to be made a bit bigger than that.
Well, I think again, I heard I think it was Chris Wallace talking about how this thing had like teeny little legs that they could never show it running, so they would flash to scene because it couldn't run. There's no way it could run.
That's right.
So they would have you'd hear the sound effects as it off screen. Somebody.
Yes.
Anyway,
And he said he wanted to have big arms because you were going to see the arms moving, but they were going to be rod puppeted for the most part. There were just maybe a couple of shots where it was something more sophisticated than that. So it's like a Muppet, and you don't want to see those rods. So that means if the arm is going to be prominent, it has to be really big so that you're not missing the fact that there should be something more to it,
But he said too the awe moment when you first see him, when his hands come up over the prison,
Gizmo.
when they knew that was the thing where the studio heads went, oh, we got to go by, everybody in the studio would do the ah.
They had to make.
But they said there's no way in hell his arms were long enough for you.
Exactly. He's got tiny little arms like that. and notice in the gremlin in the middle there that it's got a different kind of tail than you see in the movie. Can you figure out why that would be? Why this look was not approved?
I don't know. I would assume the tail has
Cleveland, Crystal, you were going to say it. What were you going to say?
Was it a sexual thing? Was it big?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you just see them, if you see them in darkness and you see that between their legs, you might think it wasn't a tail.
Mhm.
So that look for the tail actually went on to the point where the finished sculpture of the full-size puppet was completed. And Chris Wallace was, of course, the designer, and he did some sculpting on the film. Also, Randy Dutra and Tony McVeigh did the sculpting on the Gremlins. And so we would cast up these puppets that looked like that, and then we'd have to cut off that tail and put on a different tail that had been made specifically to avoid this problem of it looking like it had genitals hanging down between its legs.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good decision.
Like
And also, whoever decided, hey, keep making Gizmo's eyes bigger and bigger and bigger. Also, good call, because way cuter.
Well, look at cartoons these days. And how about that new Mogwai cartoon they've got now.
Oh yeah.
Like Gremlins,
Never
Mystery of the
seen
Mogwai, or something
Yeah.
like that. Anyway,
Yeah,
their eyes are even bigger.
Oh, look at Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, Joe Dante thinks that Baby Yoda is actually an awful lot like Gizmo.
Gizmo,
You
yeah.
think? You think?
I agree.
Yeah.
with
Uh-huh. 100%.
So Joe Dante, we're several of you mentioned being a fan of Joe Dante.
Oh
so
yeah.
obviously, even if nothing else, Piranha and The Howling would be
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
probably enough. But throw in Gremlins 2,
Inner
Matinee.
Space. Come on.
Yeah.
I love
Only-
Matinee. Matinee is so underrated. I really like
Yeah,
it.
Santa just got me Matinee for Christmas, and I just
Ooh,
love
wow.
that movie.
The only
What if
Howling
it-
movie ever made. Everybody. The only Howling
What's that?
movie ever
That's
made.
right.
That's
The
the
what?
only
Only
Howling
Howling.
movie
That's it.
that they ever made.
Oh, right.
They stopped at one.
Well, interesting about this, I thought, was that Dante, at least he said, he was like, after The Howling, stuff was not coming in. He wasn't getting jobs, and he was like, he literally said, sitting in a room in El Centro, and I'm going, wow, that's not a hot spot. So, well, what's he doing there? He gets a script for this from Spielberg, and he thinks, what the hell? You know, and he talks to Spielberg, and he says, oh, I like The Howling, you know, see what you think. So anyway, and from Dante's point of view, I guess, was Jaws a Universal movie?
Mhm.
That Universal at one time threatened to sue them for Piranha because
Sue
it was
Roger
obviously
Corman.
a Jaws ripoff. Sue Roger Corman.
For all the
Okay,
money he's
that's
got.
funny.
Mhm.
all those movies where they have the, you know, pretty much the same plot with different things.
Yeah, they did shut down one big shark movie that was really a ripoff, but
Total
but
ripoff.
Piranha, come on, it's original.
Yeah, that's not
And
fair.
Spielberg says it may be a ripoff of Jaws, but it's the best ripoff of Jaws that anybody's ever made.
And that's what he said. Spielberg said, "No, this is a fun movie. Just leave it alone." So that's interesting, you know. That,
yeah, and believe it or not, they were originally considering. Oh God, okay, forgive me, Tim, who directed, or
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton, yes, they were considering Tim Burton, but he hadn't directed a feature. Whereas you already had Hollywood Boulevard, Piranha,
Wow,
The
can you
Howling.
imagine
That would have been interesting.
Gremlins?
Yeah.
I think it still would be good.
It would be very different.
That'd be different.
Yeah.
it would
Wow.
But I think it's kind of better. Ideally, people kind of take baby steps before they jump into something this big.
Tim Burton might have left the genitals on.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, he's pretty kid. He's
Except
very
they would have been
kid-friendly.
curly. They would have been
Like-
curly.
Like even his harder stuff feels less.
Yeah.
Horror,
You know, Beetlejuice gets a little frisky, but aside from that,
Yeah.
What I
going
found
along with
go
what?
ahead.
Go
No, I
ahead,
was just going to say what I found interesting reading up on things is that potentially Gremlins was going to be a hell of a lot darker.
Oh,
than it
yes.
was.
Yeah.
Like they were going to kill the mom. They were
Her
they were talking
head was
about
going to be. She was going to be beheaded, and the head was going to.
Yeah, the mom was
Yikes.
going to be beheaded, and
Crystal loves it.
yeah, her head was going to go bouncing down the stairs.
Oh,
The
no.
dog was going to get killed by the Gremlins.
Okay,
And-
that's too far.
Oh,
And-
that's too far.
And
Wow.
yeah, I don't care about the mom, but the dog,
No.
come on. And the where am I going? I don't know. I'm sure it was
The
brilliant.
dad,
I think it was
was the dad
Gizmo
gonna
was
die
supposed
too?
to Gizmo was supposed to turn into Stripe.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
And so Gizmo would. Yeah, Gizmo's
Yeah.
gone.
Oh,
Once.
Yeah.
once,
So after 30 minutes, there'd be no more Mogwais. There'd be all these monsters.
That
And-
change was a good call.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
Spielberg's idea.
That one especially.
It was Spielberg's
like-
idea, and that I'm sure made the film much more popular than it would have been if it was the hard R kind of movie it was written as.
Yeah.
Chris Columbus, who wrote the script and has since become a very popular director, he said that he sent the script out, the hard R script, out to like 50 different studios or producers or whatever, and it was rejected by all of them.
Wow.
But then he gets a phone call. His roommate says, "Hey, Spielberg's on the line. He wants to talk to you." It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, whatever.
Sure, that's happening.
Stop mocking me. So here's some
Are
of the
these
stuff
all
Columbus.
scripts that he wrote, or were some of these?
At least some of these he directed. Maybe.
Yeah,
all
he
of them.
directed
Definitely wrote
3
this.
of the Harry Potter films.
Mhm.
And his first film was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the first of the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
Spielberg could have directed it, but Spielberg was like, it's a slam dunk. I'll give this to somebody else. And that was very nice of him.
Right.
Yeah. And that's true. He wasn't wrong. Like
Mhm.
it's Harry Potter is very specific in its look and everything. You know,
yeah.
there's only one way. Like it's literally what I pictured when I read the books is what was made. It's wild.
Yeah.
So
Moving right along.
Columbus doesn't get enough credit. This is a pretty. You may or may not like
Oh.
Pixels. I actually enjoyed it, and Bicentennial Man. But this is nothing to be ashamed of. He's got some solid films under his belt, either as a writer, director, or both.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also wrote Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I heard those guys talking about how Columbus's parents visited the set one day, and that happened to be the day they shot the end scene with the grandfather and Hoyt Axton, and they said almost the entire scene was ad-libbed. It was just an add-on scene, and so they're like looking at it. Their son didn't have hardly anything to do with it. And his parents are there, or maybe I say grandparents. I don't know, whoever it was that was there. It's funny how that stuff works out. So yeah, I think this fits what Ralph was saying about how they had this great group of people all kind of fell together. Then you have
there's Chris Walas. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Man, this one, like I said, this practically broke the man. I mean, imagine he'd worked on Piranha, he'd worked on Caveman, Galaxina, Dragon Slayer. He did the close-up hand puppet dragon for Dragon Slayer, which was phenomenal. But none of those films compare in scope to this one. I mean, it's the puppets make or break the movie, and if they hadn't worked, it would have been disastrous. Speaking of them not working, they frequently did break down on the set, especially the little guys, the Mogwais. It was such a nail biter. And I heard that Zach Galligan said he would talk to Hoyt Axton and Zach, they'd say, oh, they'd hear a ping go, and they'd know that one of the cables broke inside of a gizmo or something. And they'd be like, oh, how long is this going to be? And Zach saying, I'm saying 6 hours. I give it 6. And Hoyt Axton is like, 8 hours. I think it's 8 hours. And Chris says 7 hours. So they're like, okay, right in between. That sweet spot there. Joe said that one day when things went wrong and it took some serious repairs, that everybody on the set was sleeping. They were all taking a nap. And that's the day that the production manager came by to check up on the production. What's going on here?
Well, he talked about how that they talked about that the setups took an incredible amount of time.
Sure.
As with the puppets and everything, and that people just would wander off. The actors didn't know. People didn't have to be there. Would just wander off and wonder.
And that's when the boss shows up, of course.
But it cost them money to keep them there and on site, to be ready to go when you.
Time is money. Yep.
So I've heard that the picture on top of Chris is only 2 months after the second picture.
Yeah, it's like when you look at an American president before and after.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like that.
Or Rob Bottin after The Thing. Yeah.
Oh, that almost killed Rob. Yeah. Rick Baker's had some close calls like that. Yeah. He got pneumonia. He got kidney stones, and I think he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I mean, the immense pressure on him, and they had time, but then there were things that happened, like the fur, the color of the fur on the Mogwais at the last minute was changed because Spielberg wanted it to be look like the coloring of his King Charles Cavalier Spaniels,
I was
his
going to say
dog.
like a dog. Yeah. Mhm.
You know, and it's something that paid off because they look really nice with those colors. But
Mhm.
Chris is like, oh my God,
That's a
now
lot
we
of
have
work.
to undo all the fur on
Mhm.
all these little
Right.
puppets. And it was only 3 weeks before they started shooting with the puppets that they got the directive. Oh, guess what? Gizmo is going to stay Mogwai through the whole movie, not just the first 30 minutes, the whole movie.
Good.
And that's when they had to
Oh.
scramble and figure out, okay, what are we going to do? These puppets, they don't even do that much. So they had to make an oversized Mogwai. It's like 3 times life size. So its ears were about a yard across. And it was much more sophisticated. It could really make the facial expressions and move. You know, the little Mogwais, they were so simple that their arms are actually tentacle mechanisms. You know, just the same kind of mechanism you'd have in a tail or a tentacle or a tongue. Because it's covered in fur and it's so small, it's like you can't really tell that they don't have normal joints like an arm would have.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, they did say that. God, what were you just saying about the?
The color of the fur.
The changes too. That
Yeah.
Most of the stuff, it was weird because it was one of those movies where you had a script, but they spent a hell of a lot of time going, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this?
Right.
Can you make it do that, Chris? Chris would go, well, yeah, kinda, maybe. If we put
That
the
happens
camera
on
the right
every
way.
set, though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that happens.
No, once
Which is
once
why
they,
they added so much stuff.
All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I just had an idea.
yeah.
What if?
Yep.
What if
You
we had a
wouldn't-
flasher gremlin? What if we had a Sam
Yeah.
Spade gremlin? What if we-
Spin that, yeah.
Yeah. Joe
Break
Dante
dancing.
really was into that. And it definitely improves the movie because the ideas that he'd come up with and that other people came up with were great. But that's all the more pressure on Chris.
Right.
Yes.
And the crew, you know. It was
No,
touch and go the whole
so-
time.
It was weird. They both talked about how they I think Chris actually said it was the hardest movie he ever worked on, but also very fun.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. I don't think the other films nearly killed him like this one did.
Yeah.
Well,
And I should point out, Gremlins was a large crew. There are 33 people credited as working under Chris Walas. I was one of them. I was not a senior member of the crew. I was really green. I was just starting out. I was kind of older than some of the people who were starting out because I'd gone to college first, film school, and I'd worked on some other things, but wow. I just point that out because I want to say just because I'm talking about Gremlins doesn't mean that I was really a principal player. I was on the Creature Crew and that's important, but I was one of many people on the Creature Crew, and I was not the person who designed how things were going to work.
Mhm.
That was other people.
So let's look at this. We got Ralph's
Who's the puppet on top?
Who's that little kid? How'd he get in here?
But there's little captions on this page here. The top picture says molding, casting, and seaming Ralph Miller and others.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't think about it, but a movie like this with all these creatures, you know, if they're covered in fur, you don't have seams to worry about. But all these things, there's flashing all along, all the places where the seams were, where the molds went together, and all those, you have to trim them off. You have to put some latex rubber in there, and you know, it takes a few layers with a hair dryer on it, and then you put little bumps on it with more latex, and you know, it's quite a job. And if you're making over 100 of these, believe me, it was like a factory. It was a gremlin factory.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was getting to. Was I think they talked about it was almost like an assembly line to a point. You
very much so. Yeah.
Each person would do their part repetitively on these different creatures. And what the next one down on the right says, assembly of facial mechanics, Ralph Miller and others. Was this an interview with you, Ralph? Or? What all these pictures see Ralph Miller and others.
Oh well, that's because this is my portfolio page. This is what I put in my
there you
portfolio.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
You know,
That
it
makes sense.
didn't come out of a Gremlins collector's magazine or anything like that. Yeah, this is all that I had to show for what I did on Gremlins because, like I said, we didn't have behind the scenes pictures.
Right.
There are
So
some
then
other
on the bottom
things.
it says bladder effects, Ralph Miller and Pete.
Yeah, smooth on bladders. It's urethane elastomer. You can vary the components and get different amounts of stretch to them. But too much, and what happens?
Yep.
It like turns into bubble gum and it's worthless.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, so that brings me to, I put this up because were you puppeteered and part of it? You were on set for this one.
I did do some puppeteering. I was not a principal puppeteer. And it's probably just as well, because can you imagine holding your hand up like this with this heavy puppet with like
Ooh, yeah.
30 cables coming
Yeah,
out of it?
I read that their arms got severely tired at the end.
Yeah. But I was the puppeteering I did was in the second part when it wasn't like the principal players there, but the only principal player that we interacted with when I was puppeteering was Phoebe Cates for the bar scene, because that was a scene where they need a lot of people, you know. And I, of course, puppeteered during the theater scene, because that's another where it was like a cattle call, as many puppeteers that could get in there, as many gremlins as we could put together. And let's see, I also puppeteered the microwave gremlin. So I had
that's a good one.
that.
So you're on the
claim
back
to
side
fame.
of the microwave. And,
I was under the microwave with a raincoat on, because after the head exploded, all this glop came down, and they had to do it a couple of times because the first time it was too wet. It just looked like water coming out, and we used Methocel slime, and we had little bits of foam that we painted and stuck into condoms, and they had little those little. What are they called? Not blasting caps. Squibs, exactly. Squibs, squibs. And they also had a squib on the microwave window so it would crack. And there were also, prior to the blowing up of the head, we had made these smooth-on blisters so that the face would like puff up and stuff. But you don't see that, which is fine. It was gross enough as it was.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it worked out well.
So you had some shots here, and I'm
God, there's so
sorry,
many.
Ralph. I did not get all these names, but
that's fine.
I thought that top picture was cool. That was like a I don't know, like the Gremlin warehouse or something.
Yeah.
They're all laid.
Yeah, there was a big trailer for the Gremlins and for us working on the Gremlins and fixing the Gremlins when they broke down on the set. Yeah, and the middle shot is the people who are puppeteering the bar scene. And I'm actually in that picture.
The middle of the back row there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the back row with, the typical 80s porn stash that was popular in those days.
He's the one back there with the red and white striped cap on.
And then on the bottom, you can see more principal puppeteers that were in for pretty much all of it. You had Blair Clark, Randy Dutra, Brent Baker, Jay Davis, Chris Wallace, Valerie Safranco, Ethan Wiley, Mark Wallace, and Bob Cooper. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had more to do with the movie than me, but they're not here. So what are you going to do?
Well, and in the commentary, with the DVD, they say when they get to the credits, at one point they go, and these are the people that all made it happen, and they're all quiet while they go through the list of those effects people where your name is.
Ooh.
At least that's what I heard. Yeah. What was his name? Is it? I want to say Bob.
Bob McDonald.
Yes, Bob McDonald Sr. and Jr. were the physical special effects.
Yeah. See, in the past, the words practical effects might be used for people like them, people who are going to use air cannons and make it rain and make fire and, all kinds of things that we were doing creature effects. They were doing the on-set special stuff.
He's the one that made all the gadgets, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They were awesome.
Yeah, all of Rand Peltzer's inventions and none of them worked. It's great.
So to talk about that a little bit more, I thought that, we talked about how the scene with the mother was in the original script, she was going to die, but that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
The kitchen scene.
Well, she's this, not only because of the mayhem, but her character is just sort of this standard housewife, that has this crazy husband that she just puts up with, and keeps the household running and all that stuff.
Yeah, almost a leave
and
it
when
to
she's
Beaver.
met with this menace,
Turns into
grabs a
true
knife
lies.
and wades in. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, she really she's not having it. She's taking care of those
Mama Bear.
gremlins.
He stabs one to death. The other one goes into one of his mixer inventions. One goes in the microwave.
In other words, she's exactly what would happen if someone home invaded Crystal's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beheading.
Actually, she's probably a lot nicer. Like I will tell you, you got to get scrappy. Okay, when you're little, you just have to like fish hook them, dig out the eyes. You got to go for whatever you can.
See, I told you guys. I told you.
Yeah. Don't get on Crystal's bad side. Don't yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't.
Yeah.
Be
Whatever
afraid.
you do, don't just knock them down and run. Finish them off.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's Jeff knows. Like I'm like kill them till they're dead.
That's
Right.
Kill them till they're dead.
That's what I say in every slasher movie.
Oh, come on, people.
Mhm.
Pick up the
His
weapon.
head's still attached. You can't leave now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, I was trying to look up her name, and I
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, yeah.
That is Frances Lee McCain played Lynn Peltzer.
Yes.
Yeah. She says, I spent 2 days under a Christmas tree being strangled by a gremlin.
That was a
Wow.
Who else can say that?
I kept hearing Joe Dante go, "Oh, they were a real trooper." And I got, in other words, you treated them like shit, and they
Right.
took it.
Yeah.
So they didn't say anything.
They didn't sue.
Hey, nobody suffered more than Joe Dante and Chris Walas on this movie.
Oh, I bet not.
I used to fancy myself thinking someday I'll be a director, but it's like, man, you want to know the hardest working people in the business. If they do it right, directors work their asses off.
Mm-hmm.
Joe was no exception.
Phoebe Cates said that Joe Dante was her favorite director to work for because he never really directed her at all. He said it was obvious that the actors weren't really all that important. In this movie.
Or they were
It was all
doing
about
their
the
job.
Gremlins. Yeah.
They were doing their job right. The Gremlins were
Well, I think
probably more
Steven
trouble.
Spielberg said,
come on.
They were talking about how the producers, the suits, those guys wanted them to cut back a little bit on the Gremlins.
Yeah, the executives.
Oh yeah, okay. Then we'd have a movie called People. Then
Right. Smart.
Yeah. The executives are saying there are too many gremlins in this movie. Too many gremlins.
Well, we got to mention Hoyt Axton is.
Oh yeah,
cool character.
That's great.
He's a sweetheart.
Excellent songwriter too.
Yeah.
Didn't he write some songs for Elvis?
His
Wow,
mom.
really?
His mom
did?
wrote Heartbreak Hotel.
That's right.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big
He
one,
wrote
too.
some songs for Three Dog Night.
Yeah. Joy to the World is his.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
And I never something about Spain. I forget the title. I've never been to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Three Dog Night too.
And one day he bought us all lunches and he performed for us and he sang Joy to the World.
Oh wow.
It was so
That's
nice.
awesome.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, he was great in this movie. I mean, his character could be a negative character. He's kind of a bumbling guy. His inventions are terrible. He more or less buys this thing knowing he's not supposed to do it. But he's so lovable. Who couldn't love this guy?
Yeah, come on. He's a big old teddy bear of a guy. You just want to hug him.
Well, let's do a quick run through of the cameos. Anybody, Chad, you got a cameo you want to mention? That
Cameos. Get your cameos.
Dick Smith or Dick Miller. I'm sorry.
Well, he was more than a cameo. But yeah,
Right.
yeah, he's a standard.
He's usually the cameo guy.
Yeah.
What
Well,
was
I
his-
mean, they had like Chuck Jones.
Yeah, Chuck Jones
Chuck
played
Jones.
Mr. Jones.
He was
He's the
only
one who
guy in the
compliments
bar.
Billy on his cartooning.
Mhm.
And in fact, Chris Columbus wanted to be a cartoonist, like a comic book illustrator. The dream job, right, Chad?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, living the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, there were
My work for him, 'cause I wrote
there
all
were so
that
many
in the
cameos.
wrong
I mean,
place.
that's what you come to expect from Joe Dante movies.
Jerry
You'll see
Goldsmith.
people who've been in other movies of his, and you'll
Right.
see people who were in movies in the 50s, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm trying to
And-
think. I think it was on the Hoyt Axton one that, yeah. The picture at the bottom there where he's at the convention, Inventors Convention.
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith is in the phone booth right behind him at one point.
Yeah. Jerry Goldsmith is in a cowboy hat standing behind him. You can see, of course, there's Robbie the Robot there
Robbie
at
the
the
Robot.
convention.
That was so hilarious.
And there was also Steven Spielberg
Comes by on a
Comes-
automated.
comes by, in an electric wheelchair because he had actually broken his leg and it was he was laid up. But Joe Dante say, "Hey, let's put you in there."
So
Joe
for
Dante
my-
is a really fun character. He has a voice kind of like Jay Leno, and he's very funny and he's incredibly knowledgeable about all the history of film, but especially when it comes to the genre science fiction and fantasy.
Well, he likes to use these guys.
Horror.
Yeah, the William Shallert
Mhm.
as the father to Bartlett, I guess. Kenneth Tobey, I'm sure you
Yes.
saw him. Chad.
Kenneth Tobey
Yeah.
from The Thing from Another World.
And he's just sitting there. He's just sitting at the gas station, and Wayne Axon's trying to sell him a smokeless ashtray, and he just goes,
Yeah.
"Huh." You know, he just
Yeah, and he
says
keeps
stuff.
coughing because it keeps producing
Yeah.
smoke. Good times. Do we have any other pictures, Jeff?
Well,
that is Key Luke in the
Carlson
middle.
was in a little thing, and I think, did you guys ever see those science movies when you were a kid?
Sure.
Where Richard Carlson and that bald guy is like trying to. I remember seeing those. Anyway, all right, we got to mention Key Luke. as
Yes.
well.
Oh, yeah.
There we are.
He's awesome.
He was the number one son. You see in the
Yes.
lower left in those
He
He
Charlie
spoke
Chan
perfect
movies.
English,
Right.
as opposed to Charlie Chan, who was Werner Olin and
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
really Asian.
Key Luke was such a good actor. He actually made you believe he thought Charlie Chan was Chinese.
Yeah.
And then of course Kung Fu.
Yeah, Master Po.
Right.
Yeah, he was great.
Who was it said they asked him? I think it was Zach Galligan asked him. He was like 80 years old when they made this, and he asked him how he could look so young. And he said, "No fried food." Because I don't know if that
Okay.
was real or not, but that's what he said.
All right.
Phoebe Cates, fresh
Oh,
off
Phoebe Cates.
Fast Times at
Rid-
Ridgemont High.
Look at Gizmo's face there.
Yeah.
Oh, so cute.
You know, Phoebe's pretty cute, but you can't take your eyes off of Gizmo.
Aw.
Yeah. Like that is he's so
Well,
cute.
that speech we talked about too. That was like her. That was her moment in the film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
Joe Dante fought for that because that was another thing they wanted to cut. These guys
Yeah.
said
Oh,
a
I'm
lot
sure.
of people didn't like it. Well, the producers didn't like it either. They
Yeah, the editor said as soon as the editor saw
yeah.
this isn't going to stay in the picture. Even Spielberg said, "Are you sure you want that in the picture? Because I don't know if I really like that." But Dante's
you know,
like, "Yeah, he really fought for it."
Yeah, I can see the argument. It does stop the film dead, and normally that's like the first stuff to go. But it's so quirky, and it just
Yeah.
fits this film perfectly. It had to stay.
It does. And everybody remembers it. That's
Oh,
one of
yeah.
the
Yep.
big things everybody
True.
remembers.
And Joe Dante said, "If they're with you, this far into the picture,
Yes.
are they really
thank
going to
you.
walk out because there's
Mhm.
55 seconds of this Christmas story?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right
at a
too. 'Cause
point,
it's not near as long
you've
as you
sold
think
them.
either.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And Phoebe Cates, you know, she acted her heart out for that little
Mhm.
scene. That
She
was
You know,
really nice.
when Kevin Kline met her, he said, "Oh, I don't know if I could be with her. She's too happy." I
Hmm.
think that's so sweet, though. You know, you got this like kind of curmudgeon and this sweet girl.
Mhm.
She's precious. I think she's so freaking cute.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, mm,
And then we also have Zach Galligan.
He does a good job. I mean, it's so easy to get overshadowed by everything else in here, but he's a likable character, and
Yeah.
we want him to succeed.
look at Gizmo, though.
He was a little
And
bit
the
at
dog,
awe,
too.
I think. Yeah.
The dog.
Yeah.
They
They were,
said Dick Miller said he was always hanging around him, asking him acting
Yeah.
questions.
That's nice.
That's
like
Plus,
awesome.
Dick Miller
Kid.
told a lot of stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be hanging around Dick Miller if I was on a set with Dick Miller. Yeah, hell yeah.
hmm
yeah,
Speaking of
and
Dick Miller.
Speaking of which, he is the man.
Is that Chopping Mall?
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. a Jim Wynorski joint? Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
He
that
improves every
documentary
movie
is
he's in.
kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The bottom one, that guy, Dick Miller.
Any
And
movie with Dick Miller in it is better because it has Dick Miller in it.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, and in fact, you feel like he gets killed in this movie, but it's never really finalized. And I think there's like you can't really hear it, but there's sort of a radio in the background
There
at
is.
some point saying
there-
that he's in the hospital or something.
Well, they
Right.
showed up in two. They both
Right.
showed
Yeah,
up in
and
both.
he's got a
Yeah.
lot bigger part in too, right?
They come to New York to get away from all the craziness, and then lo and behold,
Walk right into it.
So I liked it. The other guys, you know, I always like these. Scott Brady that played the sheriff is a great character actor, and I know I'm pretty sure we talked about this before. Is Lawrence Tierney's brother. Was in a bunch of film noir and westerns way back in the day. So I enjoy the hell out of seeing him. And Jonathan Banks, who ends up playing one of my favorite characters in Breaking Bad, the Armin Trout character. Also, I think he's in Better Call Saul too. So he's the guy that went from, in this one he plays a goofy smart aleck, and it just seems like that's his nature. Maybe he's just that good of an actor, but then 40 years later he's developed this dry, hard nosed character, you know, that I'm always impressed by that when somebody's found
They're
a
playing
name like
characters,
that.
Jeff.
Yes, well, I know, but
I'm always
so this
impressed with
was
somebody doing their job.
behind the scenes. Well, some guys you watch them in shows and they're like the same guy every
Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
A lot of stars, especially old school stars with the golden age. It's like, yeah, that's Humphrey Bogart.
Mhm.
That's Edward G. Robinson.
Well,
Yep,
so that's
yep,
the
pretty
same
much.
one.
Where is your
Yeah.
Messiah now?
Nah, nah, nah.
You had this picture too, Bill, but the top is behind the scenes with the chainsaw, and if you could see, Joe Dante is leaning on the bat, and,
Which is all chewed up.
which is what is it about the chainsaw you were going to
Well,
say?
Zach
well-
Galligan was impressed with the set. He's like, whoa, this hardware store, it's got everything. It's even like a chainsaw, like a tribute to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a fight between Billy and Stripe with a bat and a chainsaw?
Oh.
And then, of course, Dante's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Chris, can we do this? You know?
Let's do this. See, exactly. It's like, oh, I just had a great idea. What if?
So-
and actually, it is a great
Yeah.
idea.
It is.
That's hilarious. And
So for
actually, that-
some shots, they had rubber blades on the chainsaw, but when it's cutting into that bat, it's really cutting into that bat. You know?
Yikes.
The special effects guy is okay. You got to hold it this way. Don't hold it this way. Don't hold that way. And Zach's like, what if I hold it the wrong way? Well, you'd probably lose a couple of fingers.
Yeah, because it'll slide right off.
It's one thing to trust
a real
a
trooper.
trained, stunt man who's been doing this for years. It's another thing to trust a damn puppet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Method
pain.
acting here.
Yeah.
Well, it has one of those great. I don't know if it would really happen in physics or not, but how he gets knocked over backwards and the chainsaw spin and drags the thing clear across until it pulls the cord out.
That might work.
And that bar scene was great. I'm sitting there watching Phoebe Cates, like she's
still
like
trying to serve drinks. Yeah,
she's trying to light the cigarettes for the guy that's got like 5 cigarettes in his mouth. And then at some point she realizes, wait, I can just turn around and run out.
Yeah, and that set was pretty nasty and filthy, and at one point she let out this blood curdling scream, and it's because there was a huge cockroach that went running right across the top of the bar.
They said that this took several days, and there was actually some popcorn that started growing tendrils in a glass of beer.
Ew. Yucky.
It germinated. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna make
Just
some
add
corn.
yeast.
Yeah, and the beer and salt and popcorn got over everything, and I mean the beer was probably just water, but the salt was not. The salt was not particularly good for the puppets. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Well, we also have some other stuff that we've got. Oh, a couple more behind the scenes here.
Oh yeah.
This is in the front door of the house. You look at all the people there. They said, Phoebe Cates and Zach just said, we just always expected to see Chris crouched underneath something near us.
Yeah, usually there'd be like the sets would be raised 3 or 4 feet, and so we'd be underneath the set, and those sets it got pretty nasty down there. So here you can see, I think this is a scene where he's got Gizmo in a backpack or something, but
which is another way to hide his legs, right?
Yeah,
After
Zach said
they kept him in the movie longer. Right?
Zach said it was a little challenging to act while you've got this puppet you're holding, and there's a cable running down your arm, your body, and your leg, and you're trying to walk around and act and behave like everything's normal.
Well, that's it. Look at this scene in the bottom in the science teacher's room.
Yeah.
Look at all those people crouched all around them, and they're acting like they're just acting. Yes, I know it's acting. But it's still, I think probably the biggest part about acting is being able to ignore all this shit going on around you.
Right. Have an intimate scene with 50 people staring at you.
Actually, one of the guys that did a pretty damn good job was Corey Feldman, too, which we
Yeah, Joe Dante felt that Corey Feldman and the dog were the ones who really believed the Gremlins were real.
Yeah,
Mogwais are real. The
dog was a great actor. They said
dog was amazing.
Yeah,
they just started. They said, "Hey, let's just try him in shots." Before it was like reaction shots, and pretty soon they started putting him in the scene with it.
Yeah, he reacted exactly as he would if he were real animals. If they were real Mogwais.
So basic. I don't know if I show these before. I think I showed the concept drawings before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, okay.
So that top one looked like the prototypes more than
right. Those two, the top two, Chris Wallace found years later. They were the very first attempts he made at making the Mogwai, designing the Mogwai, and you can kind of see. He said he was sort of basing it on a tarsier, which is one of these prosimians that has these enormous eyes. That's a nocturnal primate. And in fact, at one point, the executives were like, well, these puppets, this is going to be expensive. It's going to take a long time. How about we put a monkey in a costume? Let's do that. Bill, you're shaking your head.
No.
And I think they had it in Joe Dante's office. And this thing is like running and jumping all over the place and pooping everywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
And Joe's like, out, get this thing out, get this animal out of here. And then he says, so puppets?
Yeah.
So, did they do puppets? My impression was just about every kind of puppet you could think of, they did. Like they did, you had the rod puppets, you had hand puppets, but there was also marionette type, right?
Yeah, there was some marionette work done. There was, yeah, like when they're on the TV antenna, the aerial on top of the rooftop. I don't know if the kids listening to this know what a TV antenna is, but anyway, and also there were a couple where there are actually a couple of gremlins walking in the bar scene, and that was marionette work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They were really hoping the marionettes would work better. They were hoping to use them more and have more walking, but obviously that didn't happen. It didn't
They
work.
always look so weird. They always look like they're floating, like even if you weight them down, it's just not quite the,
It is hard to get that to work because you're controlling them with these threads or these fish lines or whatever that are on their knees, attached to their knees.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can make the knees go up like this in front of them, but you can't really get a proper walk because you can't get the legs to go behind them.
I just think of those British ones from, Thunderball and
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds,
the Jerry Anderson stuff. Love that stuff.
All right, I think I've gone through all the pictures unless somebody can think of something that they did that they wanted to show that I didn't.
Didn't we have like one of just the Mogwai? And
okay, now Jeff,
right.
I sent you a lot more pictures, but if you don't have them, that's okay.
I combined them. I mean, that you sent me like 26 pictures, but I put 2 or 3 in every slide. So.
Okay.
Tell me a picture I missed.
Well, like, did you see the one that was like it said technical drawings? Did you see that one?
Well, that was in the PDF.
Yes, that's it in PDF.
Okay, I didn't do anything with that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Leave the PDF alone then.
But that was pretty cool. I just wasn't. I would have had to. I guess I could have done screenshots. But I was running out of time.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I can real quickly.
So Ralph gave me a technical drawing PDF. It was like 9 pages, and for example, the first page told you had to make an eye.
Well, I'll grab them just a second. I'll just grab them just to give you a glimpse at them. See, everything was. It was all like passed down, kind of like in the old days when people would tell stories and nothing was written down. So nothing was written down about how to make these gremlins. But this was a really important film for me because it was an early film in my career, and I really wanted to understand animatronics, how things were made. So here's one page. It's how gremlin eyes are made. And I went through step by step about how they did it. One thing that's really fascinating is after you...
Oh, you did that?
Oh, you made all this for... Wow.
I did these drawings, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't design how to do it, but yeah, there was no instruction manual, but I was making my own. So like you've got these clear hemispheres, you have a vacuform piece that has a slot in the middle, and you spray paint, and then that's how you got the pupil on, and then you spray a little red around the edges, and then you scribe with a pin into it, and then spray behind that, and that's how the veins got into the eyes by scribing, and then you're painting on the other side so you can see the veins come through, and that was that was how it was done. And then I had the mechanism and everything.
I'll pull one of those pages for the blog notes.
Yeah. And then
I didn't realize that you had written these.
How the Mogwai eyes are made, and that was a different process. Yeah, and then let's see. Here we have mechanisms. So how the ear mechanism worked. that kind of
Oh,
thing,
cool.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
It is. It's very cool.
and how the eye turn worked on the Mogwai. I mean, the Mogwais were really challenging from the design standpoint because they were so small, and their head is like all eyeball, and
Yeah.
so they had to blink and turn their eyes and move their mouths, and they couldn't do a lot. But I mean, there's no room. There's
Yeah.
no room at all.
Wow.
Well, it was a great job, and you just compare like the Mogwai to the Ewoks, and you know which one
Oh.
is more impressive. And
Those
you'd
things
rather-
couldn't do anything.
No.
Yeah, and this is actually one thing that Chris Wallace thought was really impressive. Eben Stromquist, skateboard gremlin. Putting a gremlin on a tricycle and getting that to work is easy peasy, because the pedals, you put the foot on the pedal and the pedal's moving and it's going to move the feet. But he had to come up with an idea, Eben Stromquist, with how to use a motor and these linkages to the legs so that it would automatically go through this action of skateboarding. I thought that was quite fun. And
Oh wait, look at that gremlin. Look at that Mogwai.
Yeah, spitting a
Aw.
Mogwai, how it worked. It actually shot a little BB. It wasn't actually spit. And there was a little tube there, and it was blown out with air power, and there was like a parallelogram inside of the body. So as you tilted forward, the whole body would kind of smush forward. So there were some fun things. And what I was really impressed with were the Gremlin super arms, and these are my sketches. They had a differential, which is made up of bevel gears inside the shoulders and the elbows, and that's how you could get extra movements out of the shoulders and the elbows. So it wasn't just like a simple hinge thing going on, quite sophisticated. And that is something that Gary Platek designed. And he also designed those hand controls that I thought were very impressive. And then the hands, speaking of hands, this is how they were done. There's a cable top and a cable in the bottom. And there are a lot of details, but we're not going to go into that too much. Let's see. Oh, yeah, how you do a tentacle mechanism or the arms of the Mogwais. And here we have a breathing bladder, which is different from the bladders on the backs. So it was just simply a sculpted form was molded, and the back half of it would have latex and cheesecloth, so it would be kind of stiff, and the front half would just be balloon latex, and so it would blow up like a balloon.
Wow.
And the skin would hold it flat until you put air through it, and then it would inflate. And this is a real mess, but this is the kind of notes that I took when I was
Does that say 2 eggs? You have to cook something or something?
like that. The bladders made of smooth-on. You had these different components. You have
I
the
love
base, which is
smooth-on.
most of it, and then you have the catalyst, and then you have the plasticizer, and the amount of plasticizer you put in determines how stretchy it's going to be.
I have smooth on just sitting around here that I need to use for something.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it
Well,
doesn't
for
last.
your information, we use 60
Do a
parts of part
face.
C, which is the plasticizer,
Mhm.
to 100 parts of part A. So it's a 60 to 100 mix. So do that. It works.
Interesting. Yes.
Crystal, I should come out there and do a life cast of you.
Oh, I have had 2 of them, and I don't own either one of them.
Aw.
You need
And
your
I
own.
really want one. Yeah, I need my own so that I can make prosthetics for me. Yeah, it'd be
Ooh.
awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say this, but we got to wind this up. And
We
I,
do.
I need to apologize to Ralph for not realizing the importance of the best part of this was those technical notes.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Oh, well, this way
When
I
you
can
send
keep
me
my
when you send me
secret.
like six or seven emails like that, I like just went through and downloaded as fast as I could without
No other podcast
not
has
reading
those.
the email.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
If it's all right with you, I'm going to put those pages in the blog.
Oh,
notes.
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna see
So
myself up
people
close.
check that
Yeah,
out.
maybe you get
Website,
some pointers, Bill, when you
gruesomemagazine.com.
want to make some puppet
Yeah,
movies.
right. Oh God, I'll end up in the hospital like
Yeah.
Dante.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, folks, we didn't do taglines and we didn't do feedback, but that's okay. We'll do them next time.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just for Chad.
Oh, yes. Okay, I still got to do that. Yes. What?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
I guess.
And that hasn't been taglines
Thank
for
you.
Chad, but that's okay.
So,
as we-
yeah, if I could just say a couple of things. One is Chris Walas is no longer in the movie monster business, but he does do a big thing for Halloween, like I do. And he
Oh, that's
also
awesome.
does paper mache art. He
Oh,
does
wow.
it on
Ooh.
commission, or he just makes something, and then if somebody's interested, they'll buy it. So he's still actively creative person, which is really cool. I think he's
Cool.
up in Portland or something like that. But if you do a search on Chris Walas paper mache, you'll see he does phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, he's one of the best. He
is
Yeah.
incredible.
The Fly too.
Yeah, he did. He
Mhm.
directed The Fly too.
Yeah.
He worked on a lot of films other than Gremlins, but it's really a big one, and probably the biggest one he ever did. Let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yes, if you're interested in Gremlins, not only if you buy the DVD or Blu-ray, you can hear the commentaries of the actors and the director and Chris Walas and everybody. It's just wonderful. But just go on YouTube and you'll find there are lots of interviews with the people who worked on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I learned a lot of stuff I wouldn't have known otherwise from checking out these YouTube
Well,
interviews.
there was so much going on. There's no way that nobody could, even if you were part of it intricately, you wouldn't have experienced all that.
Oh, no.
It's just... All right. Well, I appreciate it, Ralph.
Yeah.
And
Thanks very much, Ralph.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming,
Love
Ralph.
having you.
Well, thank you.
Always.
I appreciate all the love for the Gremlins. I love them too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Was this one of your first movies?
It was, and certainly one of my best. One of the best I worked on. Yeah.
Well, you're in some good ones, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just so important because I was on it for months, maybe a year, and it taught me so much. I mean, you could see those drawings I did, the pictures of all that stuff that I just wouldn't have gotten any other way. It was the big puppet movie at the time. You'd already had Dark Crystal and Labyrinth was yet to come, I think.
Mhm.
But this was just such an education. It really was.
But let's
and
be
it-
real. It's the
experience.
puppets and the well, they're not animatronics here, but these are better than movies today. So, come on, these look
Yeah.
I don't know what this would look like now. I don't know what
In
it
spite of the
Legit.
fact that we were pressed for time, it's like
right.
if Stan Winston's shop did a big creature movie, they'd have a month to rehearse. There was no time for rehearsal.
Right.
We were just slammed against the wall, just trying to get the stuff that we could put in front of the camera. So it was. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I'm happy that people still like this movie after.
Yeah,
It's 40 years since I worked on this movie. That's a long time.
Wow.
It is an amazing
Yeah.
story, just the way it worked out for everybody involved and the amount of pressure and how much of it was pretty much winging it. Chris Walas talked about the big crew he had, but he also said about half of them hadn't worked on movies or maybe
That's
didn't
right.
have any puppeting experience.
You had some very experienced people who'd worked at ILM or worked on John Carpenter's The Thing, and and then you had a lot of people who'd never worked on a movie before. I hadn't worked on much at all before this, and it definitely changed my life, and I'm sure it changed many lives along the way.
Okay, well, that's episode 250, and we are going to keep going. There's plenty of ways to stay in touch. Please make comments on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel or send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com. There's also the Gruesome Magazine H&R and DOH podcast Facebook group or the website, gruesomemagazine.com. So leave your comments. We will catch up on feedback next time. And that's it for this episode. But again, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another film released between 80 and 89. Next up is one picked by me.
Uh-oh.
And this will not be a palate cleanser.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
This is a movie suggested by a listener.
Uh-oh.
Slaughterhouse, 1987.
Mm.
And it may make you feel just a little. You may need a shower afterwards.
Really?
It's on Shudder.
Oh, look, Crystal perked up.
That sounds fun. It's on Shudder.
The movie or the shower?
A serial killer that runs a hog slaughtering operation. There you go.
Hog farm. Okay.
Shudder. Let's see, what else is that on? Tubi, Pluto, Plex.
Sounds like it's trying to be like a Texas chainsaw.
It's out there a bunch. Well, it's supposed to be part comedy, and there is some.
Oh,
really,
okay.
No, we'll see about that.
Jeff, go to the nearest butcher shop, ask them for a hog's head, and hollow it out, and wear that for the whole.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be
I
awesome.
saw
With a chainsaw sitting in your lap.
I saw
Oh,
that's neat.
wow.
Sammy's
Ooh.
plea for the. Oh, and I need to bring this up to Ralph.
Motel Hell.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, hey, we matched.
Yeah,
Except mine's a little bigger
Yeah.
than yours.
Yep.
I've got one just like that. Yay!
I got two more. I got a fatso and a
Phrasing.
shorty too. So I
Nice.
that was my Christmas present to myself. Because
Well, I'm sure that was very exciting podcasting for those who are listening.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah, right.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
So Slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for Slaughterhouse, and you guys can watch it ahead of time. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the 1980s. As only decades of horror can do it. Thanks again, Ralph, and thanks, Bill, Chad, and Crystal.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Always
Thank y'all.
Oh, yeah. Are we going to do like
I
wait,
can't
what
do
is it?
that.
Like the try hard one?
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.